what's your level in
About a
pickleball?
year, just about a year. We've been kind of back and forth between the Midwest and the Northeast for most of the last dozen years before that. Uh, well, probably more than that. I'm going to age myself if I tell you how many,
It
but
doesn't matter. No, no. 29. You've been 29 for a few
I've been
years, no?
29 for, yeah, a little while. But no, I think post-college, it's kind of been Midwest to New England to Midwest to New England. We've kind of done that back and forth a few times for my job and my husband's job. And this last one brought us down to Florida. So really just about a year.
Mhm. And pickleball wise, how proficient are you?
I'm sorry?
Pickleball.
Pickleball. Oh no, it's on my wish list. So as a now warm weather climate person, it's on our list that we feel like we have to learn pickleball. Also because when you're not 22 anymore, what are you going to do? You got to find something that you can is age appropriate. So yeah, we actually just bought paddles. We
Nice.
have a date between Christmas and New Year's to go learn how to play pickleball. Hopefully, everything will be very, like husbands and wives, like when they try and do things together, sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not good. So we don't golf together. So we're hoping pickleball will be something we can do without harming one another.
Well, so our HOA center, they have a tennis court. My wife was like, yes, we need to do that. I said, okay. She bought the paddles for the tennis court, a bunch of balls. You know how many times we played?
I'm going to guess
Absolutely,
two.
absolutely zero. Absolutely zero. I think that the tennis, they still have like the nylon or whatever, the bag that they came in. I think that they used it once to hit a rug or two just to get the dust
The
out.
dust out.
From every time that we actually play together tennis was in a hotel or while we travel somewhere else, and that would be two. That would be twice, actually.
Okay, that
But
would be two.
yeah,
Okay, I got the two right.
yes, yeah. But so let's actually talk about insurance. And as much as I like to talk about travel, and we talked a little bit earlier about Spain and the amazing food that they have over there, Katie, uh, I told you before, I'm going to allow, you're going to pronounce the name of your company. I tried the Xceedance,
Perfect.
it didn't work.
You got it right the first time.
Xceedance. Okay. Yay me. On the
Yay!
12th attempt. Awesome.
I
Great.
know. 12
So,
tries. You got it.
yeah. What do you guys do?
So that's the fun part. We're always trying to boil this down to that quick 30-second elevator pitch, which I have actually done a pitch in an elevator before where you only get about 30 seconds. But the short answer is that we provide business solutions for
Hmm.
insurance companies across the globe. And that there's your tagline, which doesn't necessarily tell you a lot. But
No,
when
it
you think about
doesn't.
it, no, no. But there's a longer story. I'll tell you the medium-sized story, and if we have time, we'll get to the longer story. Generally, when you think of an insurance company, there is capital on the front end because you need to have money to pay claims to write policies. And then there's all the things that happen in between the underwriting and the marketing and the policy issuance and the claims and the pricing work. And then we do all of that. So we don't provide any capital in the front end. We don't sell insurance. We see now that's confusing because I'm going to tell you we actually do have people who are licensed to sell insurance, but we don't sell insurance. We don't issue policies. What we do is a lot of people simplify it. They say outsourcing, and that has some negative connotations sometimes where outsourcing just implies that you're pushing papers around or digital files in this day and age. But what we've built is this company that's very vertically focused on the entire insurance infrastructure. And where we leverage is strong domain expertise. Everybody in our company is an expert at something. They're an expert at cat modeling, they're an expert at underwriting, at claims, at actuarial work. And we leverage these really, really smart people, put technology and AI solutions around it, and we're able to go into a company and do things at a much smarter, faster, quicker, cheaper way than they can do it. And so, what we are really providing companies is a way to enhance their business and accelerate the way they think about going to the market.
Okay. So I'm thinking in terms of um, your. Let me rephrase it differently because
Okay.
I didn't phrase it at all, right? So you see different startups that are taking the approach of like, here's an MJ out of the
Yes.
box. The only thing that you need is we're going to give you the paper, we're going to give you this, just you go and bring the clients and the customers, basically the policyholders. I don't want to call you a startup, although how long have you been in business?
12 and a half years.
So it's not a startup, but
Nope.
also
Nope, we
given
don't
the
think of ourselves
background of
that
the people. Yes, great, thank you. You already answered my question that I didn't ask, which is like you're not in a startup. You started as a company, and that's the beauty about it. Because when we look at the founders and the CEO background, he's been with the Berkshire India for a while, so he knows it. He's not a kid out of school going, I'm going to start this startup. I need $2 million in VC money so I can launch it. Right? It's like,
I've met that guy.
you met only one of
I've
them.
met
Okay.
many, yeah, several of those. Yes.
Yeah. So how about so we see a lot of different out of the box solutions. It sounds to me very similar, but entirely different.
That's a great way to phrase it. So we can do both. So some things are fairly straightforward. You want to ingest documents. Okay, so a claims document, an underwriting document, they're just documents, right? So there's certain things you want to put a document through a process, digitize it, put it out here at the back end. So there's things like that that are much more out of the box. And when you say MGA in a box, there's a basic structure for some things that you have to do. So if you were going to stand up a new company like an MGA, you have to have an underwriting system, a policy admin system, a claim system. You have to get some rates. You have to have a way to issue a policy, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a little bit of out of the box you can do. Where it gets interesting is when you think about globally. The UK is different than the US. Australia is different than both of them. So what we do a lot is for these companies that we go into is they're trying to solve a key issue. And a lot of people, we can do front end to back end, the entire suite of solutions to run a company. We literally just stood up a fair plan in the U.S. For a state, a brand new fair plan, everything from policy ingestion to the claims on the back end. And so we can do that. A lot of companies that are established can't take everything offline all at once to do that. So they're trying to fix this section or they're trying to work on this section or improve something. So maybe it's come in and think about underwriting audits. And so let's look at the process. Let's put some automation around it. Let's figure out what really has to be done on site. Because the US has challenges, right? The UK too. You have an aging population, you have limited number of people entering the insurance industry these days. We're helping to get around some of those things and make sure that the people you have that you're paying really good funds to, that they're doing the most appropriate work, that they're applying all that judgment and knowledge they have to the real problems. You don't need someone looking at every renter's policy with the same eye that you're looking at a large complex policy.
There are two elements, actually three layers that you need to run the insurance. And you mentioned that at the beginning. You have the capital, if it's in the
Yes.
front or all that stuff. So that's one solution. That's one element. If it's in the reserves or for operations, that's the different types of capital that you need. And then, of course, you have your own capital that you need to invest as a carrier that you want to make something out of it. You have the paper, the risk. So you need to have, if you are an MGA, you need to have the appointments, you need to have visit your own program, fronting company, reinsurance, are you going to seed? There are all kinds. This is why I thought, well, Xceedance. Originally when I saw the name, I thought, are we going to talk about reinsurance or what? Do you have a reinsurance element?
Do we, as a company? No, we don't.
No,
We
no.
don't. We don't issue policies.
I know, I
So,
know.
yeah.
Just connection to the reinsurers.
Reinsurance, yes. So we actually do work with some reinsurers. It's a slightly different business model, right? Because a lot of it's run offshore. The funds are different. The surpluses are different. Some of the triggers are different. Where we tend to work more on the reinsurance side is data, helping them
Hmm.
move data from point A to point B. Thinking about the tableaus, the policy rosters they get. Cat modeling is a big one in helping them put together the models and understand with their book and their risk concentration. What does that mean for them? It's so funny these days because a 1 in 100 year storm. I think they said there's been 8 of them in the last 100 years. So
Uh,
um,
I don't know.
climate.
You live in Florida. You feel it almost yearly.
I was going to say, just like knock on wood here. Like I've been so fortunate. We've had no big storms where I've been living since I got here a year ago. But climate is a thing, and so reinsurance slightly different views because they really have to rely on the primary companies to do the first layer of defense, and then they have to do the second layer of defense, so that the data flow between one to the other becomes really important for them to understand what they're looking at.
And I do apologize to you and the audience that I'm jumping and cutting, jumping between
That's
topics
okay.
and cutting in the middle. So we talked about the capital and we talked about the papers, and then there is the essence, which is the day-to-day operation. And even that divides into two things. It's like, let's get policyholders or more revenue. Let's pay claims, which is part of managing our policyholders. And then, of course, what you're going to, which is the technology, the core systems, even the marketing, everything that make pushing papers, but in a digital way. It sounds to me that this is the main value proposition that you offer your clients.
Yes, that's a great way to sum it up. I think we really enhance the policy services side. So not to your point, the we don't issue the paper, we don't provide the capital. We know people that do those things, and we can obviously help with introductions because we have a lot of friends in the industry. But all the things that make the company run is our specialty.
Uh, um, who is the CEO of the company? Is it Subramanian or Subra, or is it Amit?
So Subu is the COO and out of so he's in India. Our CEO is Arun Balakrishnan. So he actually also lives here in Florida now. He's a little bit down the road in Fort Lauderdale. So I get to go up and down the coast a little bit to see him.
So, can you tell us the origin story of the company?
I don't tell it as good as Arun because he was there when it happened, but I've heard him tell it a few times. So I'll do
Sure.
my best because he loves an origin story. So Arun will tell you, and he'll poke fun at himself, that he was a not so successful entrepreneur once or twice and had done some work online trying to sell insurance and had become the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway India. And India is a very different market than the US or the UK. And Berkshire had decided after a couple of years they were not going to continue the operations. So Arun had found himself at that point trying to say, "What do I do now?" And his outlook is always that this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for him to think of something new. And what he did was he gathered about a dozen people and went to Berkshire Hathaway to the big guys there and said, "I'd like to do services for you. We know how to do these. We've learned about insurance while we're here." And his model is very vertically focused. So we don't go across industries. We're just insurance. And he really then started building out what were the core things insurance companies would need. And he started with cat modeling, analytics, what we call life cycle and operations, which is the underwriting and the policy issuance and things like that. We later added claims and continued to add services they need. We his origin story was that he found himself unemployed one day and decided he was going to do something about it. I guess is the short story. But no, he started this company with 12 people. We are now 5,500 teammates across the world. So we have 5 offices in India, about 600 ish people in the US, mostly remote working, a couple hundred in Poland who do services for the European operations. We have about 50 in London, a few in Australia. We just had a press release go out 2 days ago about an office in Manila that we're setting up some operations there. So it's been a really great time. We've suddenly become a small but mighty global organization.
And that's such a great setup towards the next bunch of questions that I have, which starts with the most simple part. And we're going to touch Manila in a second because that's interesting in terms of the entry point. Is one of the entry points to Southeast Asia. People usually think about Tokyo or Singapore as kind of the way into to Asia, and it really depends. And we see Manila. I used to work with when I was in Intel many years ago with the Cavite site. Since then, they closed it and shifted it to China, but that's a different story. Um, no, it's semiconductors. That was like too many careers ago. Um, but let's start with the something that you mentioned earlier. You're working globally, and you're serving global insurance companies. Now, here in the US, we have a lot of regional, we have, let's call them tier three, tier four carriers. Even the tier ones that are very domestic oriented, they may have some sort of affiliation. I know from farmers, we basically the management was under Zurich. Um, what does it mean for an insurance company to be global compared to just focus on domestic or only on a few states?
Yeah, so I guess two things with that. So one is we don't limit ourselves to global. We have a number of global entities that we work with. But when we talk about like the tier threes and the tier fours, for me, what it comes down to is sometimes capacity for change. If you're in a bigger company, you have more resource to deploy. So you can take 10 people offline and to work on a project. For some of the smaller companies, they really are running their operations sometimes they're not, a lot of them aren't in New York City, so they're in different locations where sometimes talent has been an issue, getting resources has been an issue. So, in working with them, it's really about coming to where they are. And when you think about a big global carrier, you're still having to deal, to your point, with the local regional entities. So, UK law is different than France law is different than US law is different than South America laws. So you're
Hmm.
still dealing with, in some cases, then you're dealing with multiple entities who are trying to work on the same problem, but in different ways. And then when you get to the smaller carriers, it's a bit different starting point sometimes. It's really, a lot of times we're just thinking about how do we roadmap them. They're on step two. They're not on step four yet. They're on step two. And so you really aren't trying to pitch them the same solution. You have to pitch them what they need in the way they can absorb it in a way that makes them successful.
Uh, so in the global arena, your background also is with a few insurance companies with global footprint. I think that you mentioned that you were with Liberty. What did you do there?
So I'm actually a credentialed actuary.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
usually the look I get when I tell people this. They're like, oh, yeah. So I went to Liberty while I was I was taking my actuarial exams and I got my credentials there. They've got one of the largest actuarial programs for people
Hmm.
that are working through it. And so a really great rotation program. So you get a lot of experience. So I was at Liberty for 8 years, took my exams there, got credentialed. Um, Left there and went to CNA for a little bit. Then I jumped into the consulting arena and did actuarial consulting for a company for about 6 years. And then went to Willis Towers Watson which became WTW. And I was there for 5 years leading the P&C practice for insurance consulting and technology. So actuary, strategy, and technology. Did a stop at Aon and did some work with the brokers there, trying to think about how to expand the solutions that they were providing to the reinsurance clients. And now at Xceedance.
And you are the chief of staff to the CEO.
I am.
What does it mean? I see chief of staff for so many different companies, and everywhere the definition of the work of the job is a little bit different. What
It
does
is.
it mean for you?
So Arun's a little bit forward thinking. So he had went ahead and established his own board of directors because he felt like he should be getting guidance on decisions. And they told him that he should get a chief of staff. And a lot of people, I think, assume that it becomes more administrative. So it's funny because there's an element of thinking about his calendar even, which it makes me laugh because I keep thinking that I'm probably not qualified enough to be an executive assistant because I watch these ladies and gentlemen work and they're moving things in ways I was like, I don't know how you made that all fit and happen. But no, so when we think about the chief of staff, I'm the first one in this company, so that we've had to evolve it a little bit in terms of working with the CEO in terms of what does he need, what things am I able to do that make his life easier. So, I mean, a chief of staff is really an advisor. It's a partner. It's someone that can help take his strategic and sort of base level ideas. And I spend a lot of time where we think of something and just, hey, let's vet that a little bit. Let's put some context around it. Let's think about it. Maybe we put it down, maybe we pick it up. But a lot of what I'm doing is really thinking about strategic initiatives. Where is the company going? How can I run things? If he's got 10 ideas, let's vet them and get down to the best two. Provide him more time to really think about the company and the future. And so that involves some miscellaneous core functions that I run. So I do run the strategic initiatives. I run marketing, communications, support the chief people officer and that department. We're working on M&As. We're working on the capital raise we just did. Working on, I'm trying to think what else I do during my day, dealing with our investors, our board of directors. So it's a little bit of everything, but a lot of it has to really just do with being an advisor to Arun and helping him focus on what are the best ideas that we should be bringing into the company.
So for those who, what's the name of it? So for those who actually watch Game of Thrones or read
I
the
love Game
book,
of Thrones.
you're the hand of the king.
I am the hand of the king. I am.
Yeah. So
Now
left hand, right. Now
I
you
need
need
a
a pin.
I
Now
need
you
a
need a
pin.
pin. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Just figure out if it's right hand, left hand, and then you're the hand of the king. No, that's a
There
great.
you go.
Yeah, no, that's a great description. So recently you raised money from, I think it was Portage. That's what I
Portage.
saw on one of the PRs. Why did you raise money, if you can talk about, and what are the plans with, we talk, and here is the hint for Manila, and what does it signal for what's coming next?
Those are wonderful, wonderful questions. So, yeah, we just did a fundraise with Portage Capital, and we're really excited to be working with the team there. It's really given us a great partner, which I think is the best outcome of it, aside from the money, is to have someone who shares our interest in the industry, shares our interest in growth and AI and the technology world that we like to be in. So when we thought about raising the money, it really had to do with our longer term ambitions. There's two ways to grow. One is inorganic, which we are actually doing really, really well. I'm sorry, organic. We're doing really, really well just in claims and some things. I'm like, okay, I got to get them both. So organic,
Yeah.
we're doing actually well. We've been growing our claims department gangbusters. We've been growing underwriting and analytics, and so that's been very positive. Inorganic, we've actually done 3 acquisitions in the last year. which has also been exciting. To bring in new capabilities, new services. And for us, it's been such a big bonus too, because we've actually acquired some really great teammates who fit with us culturally, who are aligned in the vision and the values and the goals. So when we set out to raise money, we worked with Morgan Partners was our banker, and really talking with them about that. We wanted to have a little cash in the bank for when M&As came up, because being only 12 years old and growing, we can go at a few things, but we can't go against everything that we want to do. And sometimes when opportunities come up, you need a little cash in the bank. Or so for us, it had to do with M&A, largely being prepared to do that. Thinking about our future and being able to find the right strategic target. And so we're in a position where we don't need the money per se. We could certainly keep going, running our cash flow. It's the first money that we've raised ever in 12 years. So to your point, we weren't the kids out
Wow.
front going, "Can I have $1 million? Can I have $2 million?" So it's the first money that we raised in terms of a capital raise, which was exciting. And for us, it just gave us some flexibility to start thinking about the future in a more creative way.
Hmm.
So that part was exciting. And yeah, I think for the future, where we're at now is again, Portage is such a great partner for us. It's just meeting their team alone to help us think about is there a better way to do this? Is there a better way to do this? Can we the nuances of being a small company versus a smallish medium company? And we have aspirations to be a big company. There's a lot of big players in the space that we're in that are doing work, and right now we are nimble. We're proven. We've got great credentials with our clients. We have over 350 clients now, and just growing. And so for us, the capital raise was a great way to set ourselves up for that next step and to be really prepared so that we weren't looking at things and saying, "Oh, if only if we'd done this a year ago, if we'd done this a year ago." So, long story short, I think it's a little bit up. It's our optimism is where the capital raise came from.
So let's talk about Manila.
Manila. I have to go to Manila. That's on my list for this year. That's one of the
Do
places
you
I'm going to
scuba
go to.
dive? Well, this is something that you actually need. Now that you're in Florida,
Oh,
get your stars. And
okay.
when you're in Manila, that's a time to head out to one of the different beaches in the Philippines. They have great diving areas.
Okay. And I can put my fins in next to the pickleball
Yes, yeah,
equipment.
exactly. Yeah. Just
So,
remember, don't forget your husband. It's important.
oh, yes, yes, very important. So, yes. Yeah, so Manila, we had an opportunity. A client had a small team there that was focusing on working on cat modeling and some other projects. And Manila is, the Philippines in general, are such a great area for the insurance industry. There's actually quite a lot of business being done out of Manila, really great workforce. And so when the opportunity came to us to take over the team and to run it for them, it made a ton of sense as a great launching point to do other business. Because there's a lot of companies that love the idea of the Philippines. They love Manila. The team there is they tend to work U.S. hours, which gives you great additional resource. So for us, it's a small team of about 50 people to start with. We're already looking at expanding the team. Um, Looking for a new office to grow into. And so it's one of those, again, exciting times. We just had the press release on that one just 2 days ago. So very exciting.
Oh, that's amazing. You mentioned that you have 300 plus customers. Can you share with us kind of a use case how your global clients or domestic clients use your services?
So one of the examples I gave you was that we just did a fair plan in the U.S. It was the first fair plan in over 20 years. A state that was setting up a new fair plan, which is the
Sorry to
insurer
interrupt.
last year.
What is a fair plan?
Yes. So a fair plan's estate plan, usually around auto or sometimes home insurance, but it's considered the insurer of last resort, where if a person like you or myself cannot get coverage from a private carrier, but we are required to have coverage by law, the state does have a fund that people can apply to, and they will provide coverage. So the state fund actually has to run like an insurance company. They need capital, they have to issue paper, they have to have all the services behind it. So the state didn't have a fund. I had heard we do work with some of the other funds across the country that heard that we were the person to talk to, which was such a nice endorsement.
That's
We
great.
Yeah, we went in 120 days. We helped them get the funding. We helped them stand up the services, meet the other vendors they would need. We set up the services we were going to run for them. They were writing business 120 days after the fact.
Amazing. Wonderful.
We also have the claims TPA. I think that's another great example. This one's fun because it gets in the InsurTech space, but we have an entirely digital claims platform that lets us use remote adjusters. So when you need someone to come look at a claim instead of waiting for someone to come to your house and schedule a meeting, a lot of it we're able to do digitally now through apps where the customers can take pictures. We don't have to worry about having an office everywhere across the country, which is very expensive. So yeah, just the use of technology, and this has enabled us with the clients. So our client would be XYZ insurance company, or a self-insured, maybe a company that has their own claims department. They really have line of sight right into this dashboard. They can see how long is it taking to pay claims, how many touch points have we had, how many hours and days from the first notice of loss until the claim was settled. So it's all done in a way that makes it very fast and flexible and efficient in ways that claims has never been done before. Well, there's bunches, right? I think you were probably at the recent InsurTech conference that happened this fall, and just there's still thousands of people that are coming to talk about insurance in the next phase. And there's still a lot of people with creative ideas. That the insurance industry has been slow to adopt some of them. There's actually been some pretty good ones that we just haven't been ready for. But I think the big things we're talking about right now has to do with data-driven transformation is probably the biggest phrase that we're hearing right now. So it's all about unlocking the power of data, understanding the different data sources. There's structured data, there's unstructured data, there's internal data, there's external data. And so we've never been at a place, and it's getting better probably every day, every minute, of the ability to bring data together for analysis. A lot of people hate the phrase big data because they're like, data's always been big. As an actuary, that's what they say. I'll tell you. They're like, data's always been big, but it's never been put together in a way. And there's never been so many ways to bring it together so quickly. It used to be these 2, 3, 4 year projects to like, we'll build a data lake, we'll build a data moat,
Oh,
we'll
ooh,
build
wow.
yeah, you
Yeah.
remember. And so while that was happening, it would freeze everything, though. They wouldn't do any actuarial work because the data was all being pushed into the new system. They couldn't get good claims reports. They couldn't, add other things because all the focus was on shoving the data into a central area. And the bigger problem with that is that when the companies are all coming together with legacy systems and they're shoving the data into the data lake, it's like you just shoved all the garbage into the lake in some cases. And so you ended up with this big project that didn't actually help as much as they hoped. But with all the tools, all the technology, all the AI now that's allowing people to filter through data so quickly, that's where the big opportunity is for people to get insights they've never seen before. I think the limiter is just, it continues to be the same thing. It's our legacy thinking, it's our infrastructure, it's helping our regulators to see that this is a new, better way to do things. I think about in my past life talking to regulators about credit scoring. I remember filing a credit score model when it first came out, and there's people who will be like, "Wait, that wasn't always a thing." No, it wasn't always a thing. Automatics, that was a great big. Some of the changes have been scary for regulators and for companies, and hard to think about how to implement. For me, I think that's probably the two biggest opportunities, but you get beyond that, and the different options, parametric insurance, you get into the digital tools available, the number of vendors that are offering services, which is also tricky because, to your point earlier on startups, do you want to plug your $1 billion of premium against a startup? It's a good little gamble, right? So I think that that's the real part, is trying to prove out this technology so that when people are embedding it into their core processes and systems, that they feel it's reliable. And I think that's been one of the challenges.
Well, you just open up a new episode here.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
we started with when Hadoop was a king and everything was a data lake, which it's not about dating, but most definitely when we are looking at the different InsurTech and insurance conferences, if it's the random Accord ones or ITC, it's all about data. And not just data, because when we look at ITC, it's everyone is AI, but AI needs data. AI runs against something,
It
and
absolutely
it's
does.
data. And part of the more of the recent conversation, it's about data and clean and relevant data, because there are great companies out there that they provide you the data, and we can have offline conversation about other data resources. Yeah. By the way, do you guys consider yourself as a core system or as just op- operations or services? Because I know that
Services.
okay, services.
Generally services, everything from underwriting inspections to claims TPA.
Perfect.
We've stayed a little bit away from the product space, but we've got a couple things that we think are real accelerators and enablers from the AI things that we're using that we've never commoditized them, but it's certainly under consideration right now. But yeah, services is probably the best place to stick us.
Katey, thank you very, very, very much for joining me today. Thank you.
Excellent. Appreciate it.